100 days. And if you're struggling with math because it's 6:02 a.m., I get it. It's 122 days until Old Dominion rolls into Williams-Brice Stadium, and we get to see some new wide receivers. We'll talk about that this morning with Preston Thorne, South Carolina, going to the transfer portal yesterday. The transfer portal, by the way, officially closing up yesterday. No more transfers. You can still take transfers. You just cannot enter your name into the transfer portal. And Preston, I got to admit, for South Carolina, coming out of spring ball, much more quiet than I expected. Did not anticipate only one transfer two, I guess, if you count Kelton Henderson, but I think he was technically dismissed from the team. But a very quiet leaving portion of the transfer portal for the University of South Carolina.
Yeah, it's really interesting. Not as many guys as you thought might enter, and not that we had any intel on specific players. We just assumed, based on the climate of college football, that there was going to be more movement over the at the end of the spring. So I don't know what that means. You can probably spin that to mean whatever you wanted to, but the fact is there hasn't been that much movement from outgoing movement in the team this year.
Well, we'll talk about that. There was also an interesting transfer portal addition, not for South Carolina last week, that we didn't get into, that I'm kind of interested to hear your opinion on a quarterback. I think a pretty good quarterback, but I'm going to save it for the next segment for you. A pretty good quarterback, but also a controversial college quarterback that transferred last week and came to the SEC. And I'll get your take on that. We'll talk some transfer portal on a Wednesday as South Carolina picks up 2 transfer portal commitments, 2 wide receivers, Preston Thorne, for a room that you want to discuss in the next segment now has been rebuilt in basically about 5 months under new wide receiver coach Mike Furry.
Yeah. What does rebuilt mean? I don't know.
Okay.
We've replaced.
Okay.
I don't know if we rebuilt.
Okay.
That's yet to be seen.
Okay. We'll get into that a little bit. Last night, playoffs. And I tell you what, there was a man in Fayetteville, Arkansas that I felt was so happy, that I felt like was ready to drive back to Lexington, Kentucky.
I told you.
And, yeah, and that was his thing, is like, look at us. We're champions again. And the Big Blue Nation would look at John Calipari and go, having a dude explode in the playoffs and just be phenomenal is not a championship, John. That's why you're in Fayetteville, Arkansas now. Tyrese Maxey last night for the Sixers, fantastic. That was a great game, 112-106 there. I know you want to get into this. 112-106, I felt like was an old school Eastern Conference game last night.
It had all the trappings of an old school game. It felt like 94. Like if you just turned the game off and just listened, it felt like 1994.
Tyrese Maxey last night was 17 of 30 from the field, 46 points, hit a 3-pointer that sent Twitter or X into viral shockwaves with the reactions of like celebrities around the court last night. I think I kept seeing Jon Stewart constantly shown, but Tyrese Maxey was fantastic. And the Sixers, 112-106 last night. They knock off the Knicks. The Knicks now with a 3-2 lead. And then I saw Dawn Staley afterwards encouraging all of Philadelphia to show up at their arena for the next for Game 6.
She might be the only one that can save this one. I mean, there's a lot of information. Again, I thought you was about to say I saw Dawn Staley at the game yesterday, and I was gonna be like, we just saw her on the street yesterday.
Yeah, that would have been more incredible.
But very possible though, right? She could have just hopped in her private jet, jetted up to New York real quick, did a down and back. So that was possible. So, but yes, I did see her on Twitter trying to encourage the rest of the Philly fans.
Thursday night, they'll be over in Philadelphia for that one. Also last night in the NBA playoffs, the Milwaukee Bucks, they kind of surprised me a little bit, Preston. I thought for sure maybe the Pacers would be able to go ahead and kind of roll through this thing and finish them off. Instead, the Milwaukee Bucks, 115-92 last night. Chris Middleton, that's a really kind of wild series because you've got 2 Porter-Gaud natives, not South Carolina natives, two natives of one single high school, a private school down in Charleston, two Porter-Gaud natives, Chris Middleton and Aaron Neesmith, battling it out against each other. And actually, over the weekend, Neesmith made a big shot, followed by Middleton making a big shot. I know all those down there at Porter-Gaud and Charleston are probably just celebrating wildly with, again, two alumni actually playing in an NBA playoff game.
Yeah, Chris Middleton is the most generic-looking basketball player on the court. If you just to draw a basketball player on a game, say if we was playing 2K or something like that, he's the model guy before you make any modifications to him. He is as plain Jane as they get, and he's extremely good, which is so interesting to me because there's nothing about him or his game that sticks out. But he's very consistent for that Milwaukee Bucks team.
They get the job done last night. Indiana now leads that series 3-2 in a series that nobody's watching except unless you live in Orlando or Cleveland. The Cavaliers last night take a 3-2 lead. They win 104-103 over the Magic. It's actually probably been a good series. It's probably been really good games to watch if you're just a basketball aficionado and you just love the sport. Couldn't tell you a single thing about that series, though, and neither can you.
Donovan Mitchell, somewhere over there, doing something.
Nobody's paying attention. Nobody knows anything about what's going on there. That game just keeps. I think they pushed that all the way to True TV or something.
Way down. No, it's that's the NBA TV special. That's the NBA TV special.
Okay, yeah.
You got to go deep for that one.
Paulo Banchero last night, 39 points though.
Awesome.
14 of 24.
Great.
Yeah, fantastic. Donovan Mitchell, your guy, 28 points last night. Yeah.
Okay.
No clue. Exactly. I'm with you. 803-404-6100 if you want to weigh in this morning.
If there's a Magic fan out there or a Cleveland fan, let us know. Maybe.
Finding that elusive Cleveland fan is going to be hard. I know of one Magic fan, Clemson Tom, down there in Orlando.
Okay. All right.
I at least know him, and I know I saw on Twitter last night he was at a pub, as he said, watching it. The Hurricanes last night in Raleigh, they wrap up the series, Preston. I think this is where last night I actually spent more time watching the NHL. The Islanders tied it up at the end of the second period. It was 3-3. Hurricanes scored 3 goals in the final period to win 6-3 last night in that series. The Avalanche also getting the job done over Winnipeg 4-1. You had Toronto and Boston, which I've read is actually a really good series. I just have not watched. The Toronto wins last night, and then Nashville, the Predators last night, take a lead on the Canucks. They go up 3-2 in that. Or excuse me, the Predators won the game to force a Game 6. Vancouver's still up 2-1 in that series.
Well, we all got to be cheering for the Bruins so we can make sure we continue the streak of keeping Canada out of the Stanley Cup. I believe that the streak is very long right now, longer than any of the Canadians would like to admit, and so we have to cheer for the USA and keep Canada out of Stanley Cup.
Also,
contention.
part of that is you're keeping one of the most hated players in sport in the game. Little ball of hate, Brad Marchand.
Okay, all right.
If you, I'll admit, if you want to find a guy to root against, Brad Marchand can be your guy. Just throw him up on in that group. Yeah, you can Google him, look him up. Not a well-liked guy. So there's your playoff update from last night. Again, we'll get into some transfer portal talk. South Carolina baseball tonight over at Founders Park, taking on East Tennessee State. We'll talk a little bit about that as well. I also have something that might make Preston very excited later on this morning. There might be a return of a theme song that he came out last night that it's open. It's open. 803-404-6100. How you can weigh in. Let's get out to the Love Chevy phone lines. Gamecock Larry wants to weigh in this morning. How you doing, young fella? How you feeling?
Well, I am feeling great. I slept last night like a baby. I woke up this morning at 4:15. I got up, washed off a little bit, come in here, put me some grits and liver pudding in, get it ready for about 6:30, and got that going, and then took my medicine, popped my pills, checked my sugars, took my shot. I'm feeling good. But now I want to say a little bit about Bill. I understand you Preston and Jen going down to Dawson next Friday. But I want to say something now. Give me time. But the owners and the sponsors of at Clark's want to give me, well, they want to throw a little both early 90s birthday bash for the old man. Seemed like it's trying to put the old man out the pasture too early, but I appreciate it if that's what they want to do. And I want to say, if you're back in town that Saturday, you, Preston, Jen, all the staff, all my friends, and all my people that don't, well, they say they don't like me, but you know, deep down in your heart, you love the old man. You know that. And I love y'all. So I just say things sometimes sound kind of crazy. But I want you all, I'll be out here at my place, and my daughter will be getting a hold of somebody to tell you where it's at. I can't remember. But I just want to tell all you people, all of you, all my friends on 107.5. I love all y'all, and y'all come out if you want to. If you don't want to, no problem. I'm just an old man. But that's about all. Oh, yeah. I do kind of believe in Kingston. He's close and he's almost there. But when you play fundamental baseball and fundamental Gamecock baseball, small ball, bunt the ball, don't wait for a walk, and don't take the third strike, put the ball in play. You can win. You can play against anybody and beat anybody in the NCAA. That's all. That's all I got to say. Go Gamecocks. Love all y'all.
There you go. Sounds good, big fella. And yep, April and May 11th. Today's the first day of May. May 11th. We'll keep people updated on this big celebration for you there out around the Gamecock Larry house. We'll keep you updated on that. 803-404-6100. South Carolina again landing 2 wide receiver commitments yesterday. We'll talk about that, and then also the closing the transfer portal. The Gamecocks, I guess, technically had 3 transfers. Kelton Henderson being the third, although again he was dismissed. But Sidney Fugar might have been a wing-eating champion. I forget from last year. I remember J.C. I can't remember if Fugar was the wing-eating champion or not.
That's going to be tough to replace.
Yeah, that might be a bad. It might have been. Might have to text J.C. and check
Big
on that.
Loss.
Sidney Fugar, and then obviously also Keenan Nelson Jr. We'll talk about that. And again, there was a quarterback transfer last week that I want Preston's opinion on. When you talk about fit versus talent versus maybe upsetting your locker room. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne. She's Jen Jensen. It is the early game.
Starting out your Wednesday morning, a couple accidents. Faro Road at I-77, also Shop Road at South Beltline Boulevard. And then forecast, we're going to see sunny skies, 86 for the high today. Again, see that sun tomorrow, 88 for the high, as well as on Friday, dropping to the low 80s for the weekend with some storms possible throughout Saturday and Sunday. But right now, not too bad. It is 65 on the early game.
Reminder, the craft beer card is back. A $360 value for only $79. That's 12 craft beer locations. You can spend $30 at each brewery. Get yourself a craft beer card today. Go to 1075thegame.com. Click on Sweet Deals. It's the craft beer card. Again, a $360 value for only $79. And you can go to 1075thegame.com and click on Sweet Deals and pick yourself up one of those. And with May the 1st underway, we got Cinco de Mayo. Well, we got my birthday Friday. May the 4th be with you on Saturday.
Yep, for the dorks.
Cinco de Mayo.
Shout out to all of y'all.
On Sunday, yeah, big weekend. And then, of course, as you mentioned, countdown to Mother's Day coming up. A week from Sunday, May the 12th. Don't forget about that.
Also today is the viral sensation, the Justin Timberlake meme. You know, it's gonna be May.
Oh yeah,
that's
that's another thing you can count down to.
That's an internet thing. You'll see that all over your interwebs today.
Okay, there you go. So yeah.
Nicely done, Preston. Way to bring the culture.
Yeah.
That's it. High culture. That's what I do.
Little Justin Timberlake today.
Who's coming to Colonial Life Arena? Surprisingly,
I actually
very soon. By the way,
yeah, I don't know if they planned that out of nowhere. I feel like that should have been announced a year ago and given us time to prepare.
Yeah,
I think I'm out of town that particular because I actually would go see that concert. I think he's a good performer, and I think it's like June the 9th, 10th, 11th, somewhere when I'm out of town.
Saying 6th to 8th.
Huh?
June 6th to 8th.
I doubt he would have a multiple day run.
I was gonna say you said 6th through the 8th. Yeah, that didn't.
Gonna set up a residency in Columbia.
Didn't see that one.
June 8th.
June 8th.
Yeah. June 8th.
Yeah. It's right in the.
Must have been an estimated range. That's what it was.
Gotcha.
I'll be down in the Bahamas during that. So no, I will not. I'd love to see that though. That'd be actually a pretty good concert. And then of course you mentioned a countdown also to Darius Rucker, and I think it's Hootie coming back.
Yeah, coming back in August.
So we got a lot to get to there. 803-404-6100. One countdown that concluded yesterday was the transfer portal. So you can no longer enter your name for college football. You can no longer enter your name in the college football transfer portal. You can still recruit players out that are indeed entered into the transfer portal. And yesterday, Preston, South Carolina picks up 2 commitments. Delvon Campbell, I think I got it.
I was just going to say, it's not Fred or Rodney this time.
The funniest thing was somebody said rough day for Todd Ellis yesterday with some of these names. But just Campbell in the end zone. But Delvon Campbell, this is probably the one based on what we had talked to Jamie Bradford and J.C. Sherbert, and what we've kind of concluded South Carolina needed the most, a bigger-bodied wide receiver, 6'4", 218 pounds, caught 69 passes in his 2 seasons at Nevada. Originally began his career at Illinois way back in yesteryear of 2019. Played in 24 games for Nevada in 2020.
Check his birth certificate.
Want to know who he originally played for?
Brett Bielema, maybe? No.
That's who's there now.
Nice beard. Can't come up with his
Beard
name.
got a little scruffy, but
Got the
yeah.
scruffy beard.
Oh, Lovey Smith.
Lovey Smith.
Lovey
There
Smith
you
was
go.
the coach when Campbell signed out of Fort Bend Marshall High School. Remember, Lovey has now also coached the Houston Texans.
He's had a whole career since then.
yeah, he became a journeyman after that. But Delvion Campbell, again, the last 2 seasons was at Nevada, had 69 catches for 1,053 yards and 3 touchdowns, led the team in receptions, yards, and touchdowns this past season, 31 catches, 594 yards, and 2 touchdowns. So, but you add the big body. That you've talked about having different types of wide receivers out there.
Yeah, this is something I've been kind of harping on this whole time about the wide receiver room having all similar pieces. And I'm always a proponent of a wide receiver room, or really a lot of your position rooms, having different pieces that aren't necessarily interchangeable. Right now, it feels like they have an interchangeable group where one guy can play. And I'm not a fan of that. I like having specific guys that have specific roles in the positions. It seems like Devon's going to be a jump ball type of guy. He's 6'4". You need somebody like that. You need a speedy guy. You need a jump ball guy. You need a possession guy. You need somebody that's going to run your deep balls. Whatever it is for your offense, this seems like it fits the mold of something that they need. And so when we talk about when you go into the transfer portal, what do you need? Or why do you go in there? You go in there to get specific pieces. This seems like it fits a void in the wide receiver roster.
South Carolina also landing Vandravius Jacobs yesterday, a Florida State transfer. Now, this one to me is really interesting because, A, he's only played 1 year at Florida State, whereas Delvon Campbell, I believe is actually how I say it, started his career in 2019, played in 2019 for Lovey Smith at Illinois. He's been around the block a minute or two. He's going to be old man there, using that old man body and old man skill to kind of post up some guys in that jump ball situation. But Vandravius Jacobs, 6 foot, 175 pounds, 1 season at Florida State, just spent 1 season, but his background in high school is what stands out. He played at Vero Beach High School in Fort Pierce, Florida. His senior year, Preston, he averaged 105 yards receiving per game, caught 100 passes for 1,511 yards and 21 touchdowns. That was his senior season. He's a speed guy, does have to add some weight, but went to Florida State, didn't really perform all that much last year. I think he had just a couple catches, really didn't make it, decided to caught 3 passes for 60 yards last year in one touchdown in 5 games played.
Run that number. I was doing math early this morning. Run those catch totals by me.
This is what is off of 24/7 Sports on his recruiting page.
Mm-hmm.
It says, I'm going to read it. It says, averaged 105.5 yards per game his senior year, catching 100 passes for 1,511 yards and 21 touchdowns.
Okay.
Yeah?
That's fine. My question with this is part of his profile is that he's a 4-star guy, right? My questions is, when do we start counting? We've talked about this before. When do we start relying on what he did in high school versus his actual production that has been in college? And I guess you can spin it any way that you want. For us right now, we say, well, he was a 4-star just a couple years ago. Maybe that's important. We'll see.
We'll get into that. Well, that's a good question. I'll bring that back up because I want to get into this quarterback transfer.
Mm-hmm.
Georgia added to their room. But did they add the right guy? We talk about fit. We talk about talent.
Oh, yeah.
I'll bring that up with. We'll tell you a little bit about that. We'll continue discussion here about the two wide receiver transfers South Carolina picked up. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Sheet Jen Jensen. It's the early game.
Farrow Road at I-77, we do have a report of an accident there. Also, Shop Road at South Beltline Boulevard. And getting reports of a few places where there might be some patchy, dense fog. So, of course, just head through those intersections or those areas with your low beam headlines, if you would, till that gets a chance to burn off, which definitely should be coming because we are expecting a sunny day. 86 for the high, 88 tomorrow, 88 on Friday. Looking for some rain this weekend and highs in the low 80s. 65 under partly sunny or partly cloudy skies right now. That is on the early game.
.34, actually 6:35 as we get you up and get you going here. The first day of May. Happy birthday, at least in a few days. The co-pilot says Ocho de Mayo is the co-pilot's birthday. So, see, there you go. A countdown right
Another
there.
countdown. Let's do it.
Big Daddy Rich hit me up a little while ago. You were out hanging over there. Was it Chooker
Creek. Shout out to you, Rich. Shout out to Chooker Creek. Great school, great administrators. Awesome time there.
He pointed out countdown to the Kentucky Derby.
That's
803-404-6100. What are you counting down to right now? 8034, like, are you counting down to the end of your kids getting out of school? Do you have a big vacation lined up? Are you like me and you have a birthday? Or are you like Jen and you got the Indy 500 coming up? Jen, that's probably your countdown right now, isn't it? Your big vacation, because that's a vacation, that's a homecoming.
I'm wearing my Indy 500 shirt this morning because it is the month of May.
Nice.
So, yes.
Nice. We are here.
So Jen has got, so I'm counting down to the birthday. Jen's counting down to the Indy 500 on Memorial Day weekend. What do you got?
I'm counting down to when students are officially off campus.
There you go.
Get them out of here.
So
give me my Streets of Columbia back.
Basically, two of the three of us have adult countdowns going on right now.
Yeah, I don't think any of us have adult countdowns going on right now. I don't think any of us do.
I just want the streets back.
Yeah, he just wants the streets back.
Yeah, get them out of here.
You want to go party it up. I've seen the pictures you sent at Indy 500. I'm just ready to start a birthday weekend and all the festivities that come with that.
That's my point. Preston and I have adult countdowns, and Bill's like, "Oh, I'm 52, and it's my birthday."
42. So let's not age me quicker than I need to be aged.
Oh, sorry.
803-404-6100. We were talking a little bit about South Carolina landing yesterday. Vandravius Jacobs, transfer wide receiver from Florida State, will have 4 years of eligibility. You bring up a good point. When do you look at college production versus high school production? I say after 2 years. If you were kind of a big time recruit and you've gone somewhere, because the other one for South Carolina is Monkel Goodwine. Yes. The Alabama transfer, who just couldn't beat guys out at Alabama, but according to
shame in that.
Yeah, no shame at all. But comes to South Carolina. According to Shane Beamer, had a pretty good spring running around, and they really like what he is right now.
Well, that's interesting because automatically in our brains, when you hear somebody Alabama, whoa, okay. There's no shame in not being able to crack the starting lineup in Alabama because obviously they have very talented players. However, when he comes here, what does that say about our roster? Because, yeah, that's fine I would look for him to have more than a pretty good spring. I would want somebody transferring from that type of school to have a standout spring or to be looking to take somebody's job, honestly. I don't know if that's the language that we've had or I don't know if that's coming, but it's just interesting how all of the positioning gets played.
Well, number one, again, I liked what South Carolina did this spring. It was quiet. It was under the radar. Part of that, thank you to both basketball programs, the men's program for keeping us enthralled, starting the NCAA tournament, the women's program for going and winning the national championship. That helped the football program fly under the radar, and we weren't talking about them as much or trying to break down or overreact to any little comment that Shane Beamer would make on a Tuesday or that a coach would say. So I think that's a good thing. With that being said, you mentioned it. you go to a spring game, how many people are watching you get kind of mauled around or beaten up, and you're like, oh man,
Did you see the way he stabilized that reach block?
Yeah. That was not what anybody was breaking.
Stepped in what?
Exactly.
So I think that's okay. I also think I take it with a grain of salt. Alabama and now Georgia are basically almost they've changed how the game is, but they are doing essentially what Bear Bryant used to do with unlimited scholarships, and they're basically bringing in everybody they can. I mean, we'll take as many. They aren't even worried about developmental prospects anymore. We'll take the guys that we want, and then we're going to have tryouts, and then we're going to essentially cut you.
Yep, that's exactly what it is. It's like an audition. You come in if you think you can cut it. Come on, give yourself a shot, and then I guess we'll give you a fair and honest hopefully a fair and honest evaluation at the end of the spring.
Real quick, by the way, on Monkel Goodwin, is this a concern? He's number 6'4", 301-pound defensive tackle. He's number 44.
Don't like it.
I don't either. I was searching for him, and I couldn't. Finally, I finally hit the defensive tackle button to get to, and I'm like, 44.
Don't love it.
That concerns me far more than anything about his production during the spring.
Yeah, I don't love it, but that could be a result of him coming in late, not having his choice of numbers. I'm not sure. We have to do some more analysis on that.
Okay. All right, we'll get to that. The thing about the transfer portal now, because this is a really interesting story, and this goes back to what Georgia's doing, just bringing guys in. Jaden Rashada last week announced his decision to attend the University of Georgia. Now, Georgia did not land Dylan Raiola, who ended up switching his commitment at the very end and going to Nebraska. I can't remember if you were here last week when I was talking about that, and I remember I had totally forgotten he switched on them at the very end. Jaden Rashada, though, this is a question of talent versus fit, or do you just think your program changes to make that person fit with you, much like Alabama and Nick Saban basically always did? Because Rashada is an interesting guy, man. Was going to go to Miami. Was committed, I believe, to Miami. Huge NIL offer from Florida pops up, $13 million. So he commits and goes to Florida. The NIL deal falls through, so he ends up going to Arizona State, where last year he only played in 3 games last year. He still has 4 years of eligibility left. Last year played in 3 games, passed for 485 yards, 4 touchdowns, and 3 interceptions, got injured. Didn't participate in Arizona State's spring game, and has now elected to transfer out and will go to Georgia, where if you're Gunnar Stockton, you're a redshirt freshman, you're sitting around going, wait, I thought I was the next guy in line. I thought I was the guy to come in. Georgia also got the commitment from Ryan Montgomery, who South Carolina was chasing very hard. That's Georgia just basically saying, yeah, well, come on in. We'll give you a tryout, and if it doesn't work, you can transfer.
Yeah. My assumption is that when you sign with Georgia, you're under the impression that they are always going to bring in the next person, and they're going to out-recruit themselves every chance they get. They never will sit and rest on recruiting you. Even if you are a 5-star guy, they're trying to get the next guy. To your original question, I think Georgia has a strong enough culture that either this works or you'll just eventually whittle away.
Right.
He's not going to this one person is not going to come in there and ruin the Georgia culture. Either he works, which is a benefit for them, or he comes in, it doesn't work, and he moves on. I don't want to make this this is my prediction. I assume it doesn't work. It hasn't worked in several different places. Preseason, pre-career, things could change. I get it. Jaden Rashada might end up being a guy in 4 years you see drafted late round NFL because of his talent. And people are like, oh, yeah, I forgot about that guy. He might go and tear it up at some smaller school or something like that. And you're like, that's right. That was that guy that I remember from, had all these different things. You see these things pop up in the NFL where it's like, oh, I forgot about that guy, but their talent supersedes them and makes them last in the NFL. But my prediction, the Georgia culture will not suffer by signing this guy. And I feel like they can take a few more risks on maybe some guys who are not a fit because they have such a strong culture.
803-404-6100. Ronnie right now has got the the countdown going.
Nice.
This is a good one. He says, counting down to when I can see my son again. He's serving our country in the Navy. So
respect.
thank you to you and your son, Ronnie, and that's a great countdown to have. What is your countdown here? So co-pilot again. He's counting down to his birthday on Ocho de Mayo. I'm counting down to my birthday. We're kindred spirits there. You're counting down to when do these students here in the next few days just get out of here. Go home.
Stop crossing the street at the wrong times. You're really annoying.
803-404-6100. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Jen Jensen. When we come back, is one of Preston's favorites, an oldie but goodie. Could it be making a return? We'll talk about that. It's the early game. NBC could buy back the rights to iconic John Tesh theme song, Round Ball Rock. I watched this video last night when I was re-listening to this.
Electric.
And it's the intro, the video. And thankfully, I was tired, so I didn't tear up. But the nostalgia of 90s NBA, because, you know, we all have those moments, like, in life where they're kind of irrelevant, but they stick with you. They stick with you more often than not. Like, for me, that song is the start of summer because we would go up to our family lake house up in Prosperity, and it would be the first time that I would be really allowed to stay up late and watch the NBA Finals. So the Finals would be coming on, and we'd be at our little lake house, it'd be my dad, my sister, and I. And we had a pull-out couch, so I'd be sleeping in the living room watching this whole old school TV, like the one that you had to get up and go turn. And it had 3 channels, and it connected to the antenna. For only 42, it sounds like I'm talking about something back in the 70s. But that was how I grew up. And that song, so as I'm watching this last night, it's showing Jordan, it's showing Gary Payton, it was showing Magic Johnson hitting shots, it was showing John Stockton. I was like, oh, man. It takes me back to about 12-year-old Bill Gunner watching the NBA Finals at the beginning of June and listening to that music.
That's one of the classics. We've talked about theme songs, you know, obviously the Masters, SEC on CBS, which is they're trying to do different things with that. They're trying to ruin these songs. But if this song makes a comeback, I feel like a new generation deserve this.
Round Ball Rock, that is the song that we just played, is used for Fox for college basketball games since the 2018-2019 season. Yeah, and you probably don't ever catch that. Number one, I don't ever, it doesn't bang the same way. But two, it says the deal with Fox does not preclude the song from being used by NBC for NBA games. So there's kind of that loophole of like, well, NBC, if you get the games back. Now, what's more interesting about this is NBC Universal is bidding against Warner Brothers for a package of NBA games. That's TNT. Mm-hmm. The general feeling on this, though, is Amazon is about to jump into this as well and make a huge push to add to their Amazon Prime package, adding NBA games to more streaming, which I think are we going to have cable TV in 10 years?
Yeah, this is obviously things are changing. Viewing habits have changed, but one of the consistents was that TNT show.
Yes, right? That's been one of the best sports shows
by far. I mean, I'm sure I'm not the only one who would tune into that without even like. You don't even need to bid on the games. Just give me the show so I can watch Shaq and Chuck and Kenny and all of those guys. It's such a great show. So that has to be a part of the package. But part of the charm of it is that it's after the game. They're kind of loopy. You're kind of tired. Yeah. Maybe you're just catching the game. I don't know if it has the same appeal on a streaming console. There's something, and maybe this is just nostalgia, but there's something about it being in linear TV at a set time. You know it's after the games, catching it as a repurpose of the night that just happened.
The NBA is going to use 3 media partners around. It says it's close to deals. This is Wall Street Journal. It is close to deals with Disney and Amazon for 2 of its packages, which leads the 3rd package out there for Warner Brothers and TNT or for NBC Universal. NBC Universal has offered $2.5 billion per year to once again acquire NBA rights after losing them 22 years ago to Disney. There's a part of me that's like, yeah, let's get NBC back involved. Let's get some Round Ball Rock back involved. There's also a part of me that's like, man, you ship, because that would wipe out TNT. That would wipe out TNT for what they're doing, which now means Shaq and Chuck and Ernie Johnson and all them, they go to Amazon, and it just makes me wonder if Amazon is able to get hold of this, what is their next step? Do they approach the SEC? Do they approach the Big 12? Do they look? They've already got Thursday Night Football, so they've got their toe in the NFL waters. I think it was Amazon this year that put on was it a Black Friday game or a something different than Thursday night? Amazon is creeping in there with sports more and more and more, and I can't help but wonder now, another television deal set to come up here for the Big Ten, for the SEC over the next 7-8 years? Does Amazon be like, oh, I want in on some of that?
You know who has their eye on this as I just pulled it up? Sarah Michelle Gellar.
Did not have Sarah Michelle Gellar being mentioned on my Wednesday morning bingo card.
Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
Is 100%. They are watching this because their residual checks will diminish greatly if TNT does not have Chuck and Ernie, because how many of us have just fallen asleep watching that and then Buffy's on and you're like, all right, I guess I'm watching Buffy now. Buffy the Vampire Slayer, watch out. You have a vested interest in this, because if TNT does not keep this show, you got Buffy, Charmed.
Oh, yeah.
Charmed will have a rough time. Supernatural, maybe.
Look at you taking care of all of them.
Impressed and concerned all in one time right now.
I'm just saying, this is what's on TV after the show.
Keep an eye. I think there's more to this than just, it's the NBA and what channel will they be on. Amazon.
Yeah, this is interesting.
Amazon's making a push, and if they're going to probably get a hold of this, we'll get into more of that. We'll get back into the transfer portal as well. Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, she's Jen Jensen.
Still working that earlier tie-up, Faro Road at I-77. Old Cherokee at Old Chapin, a report of an accident there in Lexington. And also one other tie-up to let you know about, and that's Shop Road at South Beltline Boulevard. Looking for sun today, 86 for the high. Then we bump up to 88 for a couple days to get us through the end of the week. On Saturday, looking for a few storms, as well as on Sunday, low 80s is where we'll be. But by next week, there's a possibility we could hit 90 for a couple days. But right now, it's a little bit overcast, and it is 65 in the early game.
Seven a.m. as we get you up and rolling along on your Wednesday morning. Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, Jen Jensen. Fun night of playoff sports. That's where we're at now. Or we'll get into some Major League Baseball in just a second. But Tyrese Maxey last night, phenomenal for the Philadelphia 76ers. They'll get a game now Thursday in Philadelphia. They're down 3-2 to the New York Knicks. Dawn Staley encouraging anybody even near Philadelphia to go and pack out the arena and be loud.
Gave it a very you could tell she's from the college era because she was like, don't sell your tickets to the opposing fans. And I feel like she might have got that off a message board or something like that. So she was encouraging all the Philadelphia fans not to sell their tickets to New Yorkers.
So, yeah. She was now. Do we expect to see her there Thursday night?
If I had to put the over-under, I'll take it.
Yeah. She'll be there we don't know. We have no clue. But it was a fun night. Carolina Hurricanes last night eliminate the New York Islanders.
Am I supposed to cheer for the Carolina Hurricanes?
I have been to a couple games there. My sister lives in Raleigh, and so we go up there. So that's my son has some Hurricanes gear, and so I don't go crazy if they win, but I do pull for them.
Okay.
I think that's kind of where I go. Like, I've also been to a Vegas Golden Knights game, and that's kind of a really fun experience.
Which, by the way, hockey is really fun in person.
It is.
It's really tough to follow on TV. They say that about a lot of sports. I can understand that argument about baseball, but when you watch hockey in person, you can see the line changes and all the things that are happening at one time. It's really exciting in person.
Hockey it's actually probably my favorite sport, but college football. But hockey would be second on that list of just favorite individual sports to
Shout out to the Charleston Stingrays.
Okay.
Several games at the North Charleston Coliseum would watch the Charleston Stingrays a lot, often.
Was that pre-21 or post-21?
Age?
Yeah.
Mostly pre-21.
Because I got to admit, when we had the Columbia Inferno and we were in college, that was a little bit more, almost more fun than going to.
I can see that being a lot of fun.
More fun than going to, at that time, really to date myself, a Columbia Bombers game. Because, it was action, it was intense. Those guys are fighting, scrapping. Those minor league teams are fighting, scrapping their players to do whatever they can to get to the next level. They don't want to be stuck because I've talked to some minor league hockey players back when we were in college. You'd occasionally see some Bombers players come into one of the bars like after a game, or you'd see the Inferno guys. And so we'd get to know some of them and talk to them. Minor league baseball doesn't sound a lot of fun. Minor league hockey sounds awful. It sounds brutally bad because at least as it was explained one night, at least in baseball, you're not getting your bell rung, then having to get on a bus and drive 4 hours, somebody with potentially a concussion. Where in baseball, you might get take one off the old helmet there every once in a while, or you might have to wear a pitch. But no, it's just monotonous. Hockey, you're beating the ever-living bleep out of each other.
Yeah. Get
on a bus and then drives an uncomfortable bus at that. So those guys are doing whatever they can. So it was fights galore. And if you throw in draft night over at the old Frank McGuire Arena.
Sounds like a good time.
It was it was a cheap date. Cheap date led to a lot of cheap fun nights, but I'm with you. Hockey is incredible in the playoffs. I'll probably start to pay more attention to it. 803-404-6100. Yesterday, South Carolina picking up a pair of commitments. Vandravius Jacobs, a 6-foot wide receiver from Florida State, transfers in, played in, had just 3 catches last year. Speed guy, will have 4 years of eligibility remaining, and then 6'4". Delvon Campbell, I believe is how we say it. 6'4", 218 pounds. The exact opposite of Vandravius. Delvon started his career in 2019 at Illinois with Lovie Smith.
Yeah, that's the wildest part. Lovey's had a whole nother career since then. A whole separate career, which he's started, left.
Didn't leave, got fired.
Got fired, almost set the franchise on fire. Ends up giving an unintended blessing to the franchise because they didn't get the number 1 pick, so they didn't get Bryce Young. They got C.J. Stroud, and look where the Houston Texans are, all because of Lovie Smith. So a lot has happened.
He played Campbell appeared in 5 games as a 17-year-old true freshman. So he's not really known as a pop just yet. He's not that old because he started really early, but a 17-year-old true freshman. And then caught 3 passes for 48 yards in 2020. He caught 3 passes for 50 yards in 2 games in 2021, and then went to Nevada where he's played a little bit better, but a bigger wide receiver. This is the other thing. He is the 5th wide receiver transfer South Carolina has added to the roster for 2024. Jared Brown from Coastal, Amari Huggins-Bruce from Louisville, Gage Larvindane from Miami of Ohio, and obviously Vandravius Jacobs and, again, Delvon Coleman now make 5 new additions for Mike Furry in that room. Yeah,
so that's what question was having. They are replacing the folks in the room that have left. What we're trying to figure out is if they've retooled or if they've rebuilt the room up to a quality opponent. We don't know a lot about these 2 guys coming in. We didn't get a lot of chance to see these guys come in the spring. So it's still very much unknown as far as what they have in the locker room. They have pieces. What we don't know is if we have the playmaking ability or the guys that can, take a short pass, turn it into a long game. We don't know that. So I would say the jury is still out on that.
Yeah, Jared Brown and Gage Larvindane in particular were guys that people were really excited about. Didn't do a whole lot in the spring game. Of course, wasn't a whole lot of completed passes in the spring game.
Wait a second. Lenore Sells was 9 of 11, sir. Efficient. He was efficient.
Well, unfortunately, outside of Lenore Sellers, there wasn't a whole lot of completed passes. And again, as Brad Crawford of 24/7 Sports tweeted out, maybe first spring game ever where no pass was attempted more than 25 yards down the field.
All by design.
All by design. But that was the vanilla of the vanillas. Just straight doing that. We talked a little bit about that this morning. Other news from yesterday, I saw this, and I think I was disappointed. And then I realized the old adage of if a tree falls in the woods and nobody hears it, does it really matter? Mike Trout, who may be the most underappreciated great player, needs knee surgery for a torn meniscus. It's going to require surgery. The Angels did not announce a timetable for Trout's recovery while revealing the injury. Sources said a best-case scenario could be 4 to 6 weeks. A true timeline, however, can't be determined until the doctors take a closer look at Trout's knee. Expected to have surgery at some point this week. I feel awful, and then I realized, if Mike Trout walked in here with one other person, I'd have no idea who Mike Trout was.
It's funny. I recognize Mike Trout in the Eagles jersey more than the Angels jersey because he's always at the playoff games. It's very hard to feel sorry for a professional athlete who makes tons of money. So that's not what I'm saying. But for somebody who is so great at their craft and somebody who has been nothing but an exemplary professional in his sport, it's like, man, come on. It's tough. He's playing in an outpost of a location. He had a sidekick, and his sidekick's gone now. He has 20 home runs with 21 RBIs. It's just it's a tough spot for Mike. And he's going to leave for 6 weeks, and he's going to come back and he's like, same thing. Still not very good here. Y'all were waiting for me to return. Y'all didn't score any runs for the last 6 weeks. You was waiting on me.
Yeah, the Angels are 11-19 with Mike Trout. I would imagine they're not going to improve without Mike Trout. And this is, do you know how old he is?
No,
Because
I don't actually. I counted myself as being pretty good at this. He's been around for a long. He's pushing 28, 29.
he's 32, bud.
Yeah,
Like
that's what
his
that's older
time,
than I-
he's not
getting-
exactly.
Yeah,
And it's just interesting because he is a really, really, really good baseball player, and I think he's known more for being a Philadelphia sports fan than he is for being really good at the game of baseball.
he's great. It's not even really good. He's tremendous. They were talking about like Mike Trout, Mickey Mantle type of conversations as far as statistics and what he was doing on the field on a very bad team. And then also shout out to Coach, Ron Washington out there. He took the job and he should have just stayed here. Should have just stayed in Chop Talk, man. It would have been a lot more fun here.
Braves, by the way, dropped another game last night, 3-2. But Trout, you mentioned it, 10 home runs this year, 14 RBIs. He's tied for first in home runs. He's tied for 76th in RBIs.
Yeah, and Ron Washington made an adjustment. He's like, you know what? We're just going to have him hit leadoff because it doesn't matter. So let's at least try and put him at leadoff position so he get a couple, maybe squeeze a at bat or two more.
32. He'll be 33 in August. And, yeah, Father Time, you feel like is going to catch. And he's also kind of guy that I feel like he could just Barry Sanders it, like look around and be like, man, I got money. I don't know. Is this worth it anymore? Playing on a bit, just getting your brains beat in on a nightly basis. Like, this isn't fun. But you hate to see that. One other thing from yesterday, I don't know if this is a shock. I don't know if you're like, well, yep, this made sense. The Denver Broncos informed Zach Wilson they will not be picking up his fifth-year player option next year. Do you know how much Zach Wilson, that option was worth, by the way? Because when I saw that number, I kind of was like, yeah. I can't even believe this is a story. This should have, before he was traded. Zach Wilson, the option would have been guaranteed for $22.4 million. The league rules said that the deadline to pick up the fifth-year player option for 2021 first-round picks is Thursday. And so it puts Wilson in a position to try and make the most of his 2024 season with the Broncos before he hits free agency in March. What this sounds like to me is if you're a Zach Wilson fan, you might want to catch as many Bronco games as you can, especially early in the season before they really settle on Bo Nix.
Really quickly, I think I've cracked something. Who's older, Zach Wilson or Bo Nix? I think we're on to something here.
I think Wilson has him by year. But I will ask you this. Who enrolled in college earlier?
Not by a year, months. Zach is in November. Bo is in February. So not a full calendar year, just the backsides of the year.
Just the backside.
Yeah, the wraparound year. I'm gonna be honest, man. I haven't been I was not a believer in Zach. As soon as I don't know if you remember during the year of COVID season when they played Coastal, and BYU came down here, and Coastal they were good obviously at the time. But they just beat him up and down the field. And it seemed like it was the first time he played against competition. I was out on Zach Wilson from that moment. Never was a believer in him being early pick. Obviously, didn't help that he went to a terrible situation with the Jets. And what the Broncos officially just told him is, we'll keep you around for about a year, but you might as well be looking forward. Yeah. Hey, Zach, don't buy a place in Denver. You might want to just rent. Just rent a spot in Denver.
Matter of fact, save money. Rent on the cheap.
Stay at the hotel. Stay at the team hotel. Get a nice spot, whatever the best hotel is in Denver, stay there because, sir, you will not be back next year.
803-404-6100. Speaking of quarterbacks, we'll get into a little bit more Spencer Rattler and talk about fit and things going on with him, all kinds of things from him. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, She Jen Jensen. It's the early game. We've been talking some countdowns this morning. Maybe some of y'all have a countdown to Mother's Day. That's right. It's just around the corner, a week from this coming Sunday. And this coming Mother's Day, don't let mom lift a finger. Call the carpet cleaning pros at Zerorez Carpet and Air Duct Cleaning to get her home insanely clean. Only Zerorez cleans with ZR water technology, proven to clean better than detergents with zero residue left behind. Right now, you can get an incredible deal. Mention me, Bill Gunner, at 107.5 The Game, and get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned for only $129. Give them a phone call, 803-262-4020, or schedule your cleaning today at ZerorezColumbia.com. Again, right now, mention me, Bill Gunner, at 107.5 The Game, and get 3 rooms of carpet cleaned for only $129. Schedule your cleaning online at ZerorezColumbia.com. Zerorez, spell it backwards or forwards. It's the right way to clean.
It has gotten a little bit busier out there this morning in the highways. Shop Road at South Beltline Boulevard, an accident there. Also in Lexington, Old Cherokee at Old Chapin Road. And working on cleaning up an earlier tie-up, Faro Road at I-77. Also, Highway 6 there at Platte Springs Road if you're heading towards like the Gilbert area. There is a disabled vehicle in the left lane that is slowing things down, so stay right as you're approaching that intersection. Again, it's Highway 6 at Platte Springs Road heading towards Gilbert. And your forecast looking pretty decent, sunny skies, and we're looking for a high today, 86, 88 for Thursday and Friday before some rain coming in this weekend. 66 right now in the early game.
7:19 as we get you up and get you going. A reminder, baseball tonight. East Tennessee State in town for a one-game showdown with South Carolina over at Founders Park. 6:15 pregame, 6:30 first pitch. You can hear it right here on 107.5 The Game, or you can hear 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. And that reminds us to tell you, go to 1075thegame.com and register for the Palmetto Citizens FCU Grand Slam giveaway. Right now, there is $1,075 in the pot. Jen called it yesterday. She said somebody has to win tonight because those are our call letters. Went right over my head, but I totally understand what she's saying. $1,075.
Technically, it's not our call letters, it's our frequency.
Sure.
Call letters are WNKT.
Sounds even better.
Just trying to help you out.
Don't really care.
Okay.
What matters?
Radio professional?
What matters is the fact that there's $1,075 in the pot. And you can go to 1075thegame.com and register for the Palmetto Citizens FCU Grand Slam giveaway. Again, if there's not a home run hit tonight, $25 will be added to the pot. All you need is a Gamecock hitter to hit a grand slam tonight. You can win all the cash in the pot, but you got to be registered. Go to 1075thegame.com and register for the Palmetto Citizens FCU Grand Slam giveaway. Again, you can win $1,075 tonight if someone hits a grand slam. 803-404-6100. Normally I wouldn't do this, but I'm kind of fascinated to see where Scott's going to take us here because we just Googled in the break. Scott wants to discuss Zamir White and DeJuan Daniels. Scott, it's not even close to what we had on our rundown to go to right now. So what do you got? Where are you taking us here?
I know. I hate to disrupt the flow. Anyway, Zamir White from Laurinburg, Scotland County, is with the Raiders. So what I'm asking is, what do you think Zamir White's chances are with the future with the Raiders now that Josh Daniels is gone?
Well, this is what I did know about Zamir White. When I was doing my research on Xavier Legette and his horses, Zamir White came up, and he's also from, like you said, from Laurinburg, noted farm country town. So he is a farmer also, very much has a lot of animals, sheep, goats. So he is very much into farmer. That's one side of it. Now, from the football side of it, everybody's saying he has a chance to be really, really good, and he's going to take on the mantle of being the next running back. I'm really interested to see what the Raiders do out there. We thought possibly that might be a landing spot for Spencer Rattler because of Antonio Pierce and the new idea. But you being a Raiders fan, is that a system that you feel like he's going to step into?
Well, when Daniels was held out this past season, Zamir stepped up, and he shined against my Chiefs. Now, I'm a Raiders fan because Zamir is there, but he really showed out when the Raiders beat the Chiefs this year. So, for us, Scotland County, and he was this way at Georgia, he is and can be an every down back. So, I'm hoping Antonio Pierce realizes that and gives him a chance. What's interesting to me is I didn't see the Raiders draft a running back that could be the starter ahead of Zamir.
Yeah, thank you for the phone call, Scott. I think the interesting thing here with Zamir White, in all honesty, just as you kind of bring it up and we do a quick segment on the Raiders, he suffered the severe knee injury, both I think prior to being at Georgia, and then I also think he suffered one while at Georgia, if I'm thinking correctly. And you look at his body, he suffered a ACL grade 3 tear in 2017 and then an ACL grade 3 tear in August of 2018. So November 2017, and then he suffered it when he came back. He was hurt as a high school senior. The surgery was actually done by Georgia, and then he suffered a torn ACL in his left knee while on special teams during an inter-squad scrimmage and missed the 2018 season. That was the second ACL tear that he had suffered. He has actually torn both ACLs, the right and the left. And I only say that because at Georgia he had 382 carries. And now he goes into his third year with the Raiders, and the way the NFL just chews up and spits out running backs, Preston, I could see Zamir White right now. He's had 121 carries in his career with the Raiders, 17 in his first year, 104 last year. I can see them being like, yeah, you're the workhorse this year, and we'll find somebody next year. We'll use you up this year, overuse you, and by the way, it was Josh Jacobs that you were referring to that went to Green Bay, not Josh. Josh Daniels was the coach. That also might help a little bit.
It will. I'm glad somebody's realized that the Josh Daniels era is over. But this is not what we plan to talk about. But I do think this is interesting because no running backs picked in the first round.
Right.
Going back to draft, no running backs picked in the first down. We've seen the value of running backs decrease over time. There was a whole conversation last preseason with Saquon Barkley and Jonathan Taylor from the Colts about the value that NFL franchises are willing to pay running backs. And as you see, it wasn't until way deep into the second round when the Carolina Panthers selected Jonathan Brooks. Then the next running back wasn't until the third round. And then Blake Corum, who's somebody we might know about, was the third round. And then Marshawn Lloyd was after that, the fourth running back pick. Running backs are not seen as valuable in the NFL currently. And so, yeah, Zamir White's going to get a chance. Just like you say, he's going to get a chance. But there's somebody else that's going to be coming behind him because they feel like they can get these guys for cheap and just sort of churn them through the roster.
Yeah, I feel like, again, he's got limited carries in those knees, and any one hit could end up ending his career. We'll see. Behind him, Alexander Madison and Amir Abdullah behind him. So, yeah, they lack there kind of in the running back department. That's your Oakland or Las Vegas Raiders segment. I still want to call them Oakland Raiders. I'm never going to want to go away from that.
Oh, this is one of my favorite topics, when you just cannot adjust to the new team's name, like the San Diego Chargers.
I was actually about to say, like, yeah, the San Diego Chargers, like, that's my other one.
That's a tough one.
That's my other one. It's easy, the Los Angeles Rams, but the Oakland Raiders and the San Diego Chargers are the two that I will just forever get completely wrong.
Like I said, my father, bless his soul, it was the Brooklyn Dodgers forever.
Yeah.
I was like, I've never seen the Brooklyn Dodgers play. It's like, no, they used to play in Brooklyn. Then it would proceed to a whole history lesson, like Jackie Robinson, blah, 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 Roy Campanella, whatever. But it was always the Brooklyn Dodgers. And I'm like, sir, it's been a long time since they played in Brooklyn. And now here I am calling them the San Diego Chargers.
So I understand that. I understand it. No, I get it totally. 803-404-6100. Well, tomorrow morning we'll do our Atlanta Braves Chop Talk segment. That was your Wednesday morning Oakland Raiders beat 'em up segment. Whatever they do there. And I just said it, Oakland Raiders again. Las Vegas Raiders. I will never get that right. 803-404-6100. We will talk about Spencer Rattler when we come back. You're listening to the early game.
Still working that earlier tie-up in Lexington, Old Cherokee Road at Old Chapin. Also have a tie-up Dutch Fork Road near Broad River Road up in the Chapin area. And also one other slowdown to speak of. There's a disabled vehicle at the intersection of Highway 6 and Platte Springs Road. It's in the left-hand lane if you were headed away from Lexington. So you're going to want to stay right and allow just a little bit of a slowdown there. Again, that's Highway 6 at Platte Springs Road. Nice forecast on the way. Looking for a high of 86 today under sunny skies, 88 through Friday. We get into the low 80s for the weekend, but also some chances of rain are on the increase. Right now it's 66 and a little bit overcast on the early game.
$7:34 as we try to get this thing back on the rails here, but just to throw it off a little bit more, you think Kentucky fans are watching the NBA playoffs and just getting angrier and angrier and angrier at John Calipari? Like, do they just, at some point, just like ban anything related to Calipari in Kentucky?
That's the thing. Cal delivered on his business proposition. He did what he told you he was going to do. They just assumed that in the mix of him doing what he's doing, it was going to lead to championship. But he didn't promise championship. He said, I'm going to get guys, and we're going to play, and the practices are going to be intense, and they're going to go to the NBA and shine. And it's happening. And it happens. The league is filled with dudes from Kentucky.
Tyrese. Yeah. I mean, again, four of the top 11 scores in the NBA playoffs right now from Kentucky. Shai Gilgeous-Alexander is just lighting people up in OKC. Didn't see him doing any of that at Kentucky. Devin Booker, again, was good at Kentucky. None of these guys were bad. Anthony Davis obviously was really good. And then Tyrese Maxey was a guy that you're like, oh, yeah, it's right. He played at Kentucky. Like, they're one-and-dones there, and the way they played, you see their name, and you're like, oh, yeah, I vaguely remember him doing something at Kentucky. Now they're in the NBA, like, lighting people up left and right, and Calipari's like, see? It works. System worked.
This is where if you're an Arkansas fan, you got to tell them, look, that's not what we're hiring you for. You are here to win games for us, not for the 76ers, not for the Phoenix Suns. You are here to recruit guys to win here and now, not later.
By the way, and that doesn't even count. I said, was that 4? I'll just back it up. 5 of the top 16 scores. Jamal Murray, who's over there just – it is funny if you ever the divide between Calipari and Kentucky on what was supposed to be accomplished is actually hilarious and wild. That Kentucky fans are like, we want championships, and Calipari's like, oh, you see how much our guys are making in the NBA?
Yeah, it's his first time. Over $1 billion made in the NBA, 0 championships, first round losses. But hey, listen.
Our guys are lighting it up. Be happy about that. Looks great. We'll get more 5-star recruits. 803-404-6100. If you haven't seen the highlights, though, Tyrese Maxey last night was incredible. Actually, Jalen Brunson and Tyrese Maxey, 46 for Maxey, 40 for Brunson last night. Really good game. They'll pick that back up on Thursday night, Game 6 in Philadelphia. All right, let's go back. Let's get back on track. Okay. Spencer Rattler, though, you wanted to talk about fit and now with the Saints and where he's kind of going.
The big thing I just wanted to make sure we reiterated is that with the NFL, not every franchise is a competent franchise. And we need to make sure we start at that baseline. And so there are places where you can go in the NFL and possibly have your career trajectory dramatically altered just because you went to a franchise who at the current time was not operating in a competent manner. So, and the example I like to bring up is Trevor Lawrence.
Right.
he gets drafted high to the Jacksonville Jaguars, and Urban Meyer is the coach, and that franchise is in disarray. Urban Meyer is kicking people. He's staying at restaurants, bars, doing things.
Yeah, he's going out for Monday Night Football, and not in a good way
Yes.
that a head coach should go out.
All of these things are going wrong, and this is Trevor Lawrence's career is looking like, man, is this going to happen for him because he's in such a bad situation? They make a change. They bring in Doug Peterson, a competent coach. All of a sudden, you start to see Trevor Lawrence develop and become sort of the quarterback we thought he was going to be from the jump. But if that Urban Meyer experiment goes another year or two, who knows where Trevor career happened. Mac Jones, same situation. Yes, he thought he was going into a stable situation with the Patriots. Come to find out, the whole thing was crumbling, right? Bill Belichick was on his way out. Robert Kraft was trying to figure out ways to get him out. It was not stable. And so now Mac Jones, his career is now floundering because he was in a very tough situation. And so I say all that to say that Spencer Rattler has gone into what we're trying to figure out with the Saints is, I believe the head coach is Dennis Allen, which if you remember last year during the year when Jameis Winston was calling his own plays and doing things with their New Orleans Saints, that whole Dennis Allen is on the hot seat. I would say that. His seat is warm.
Yep.
I would say that. But the positive for Spencer is that he is going into a quarterback room with Derek Carr, who is reported to be one of the best dudes in the NFL, somebody who's likely will take on the mentorship role for Spencer and will help guide him along. So I say that to say that you have to go into a positive situation in order for sometimes for your career to take on a positive trajectory.
Yeah, Dennis Allen is a defensive-oriented coach. This is his second run being an NFL head coach. I don't know if people remember this. He coached he was the head coach for the Raiders from 2012 to 2014. That didn't go well.
Don't remember it.
Yeah, didn't go well at all. He actually had, here's a name from the past, Terrell Pryor as his quarterback back then, benched him.
I kind of remember that, actually, though.
So, but I guess the bottom line here is I like the franchise. I think the Saints will be fine. I think the franchise is a well-run franchise. It's never struck me as disheveled or unstable. I just don't know if they have the right guy in place right now. And to your point, Derek Carr, I didn't really think about this when I was kind of looking at all the teams that I thought would be a great fit for Spencer Rattler. Remember, we were bringing up Jared Goff in Detroit. We were bringing up Matthew Stafford and the Rams.
Another good example.
Because they were older guys that could allow Spencer to basically develop. Well, you're right. Derek Carr is a very good guy to follow behind, and he's up there in age. He's 33. Spencer Rattler, if he's willing to wait his turn and perform on the scout team, should get some valuable NFL experience. Should be able to learn behind a pro. Derek Carr should not feel threatened by Spencer Rattler, so you shouldn't have that odd chemistry that maybe you're going to have in Atlanta with Kirk Cousins. Yeah, I'll help Michael Penix. The meeting room's that way. Go down the hall about 7 doors.
Hey, Michael, have you heard of the pool on the top of the roof? Go check us out. That's where the meeting is, up on top of the roof.
Or like Brian Hoyer. Did you remember seeing that with Johnny Manziel?
Mm-hmm.
Just like, so this actually might be a good fit. Now, again, I'll ask, I don't know if Dennis Allen as the coach, and you kind of brought it up, Allen probably on the hot seat now.
Yeah, his seat is warm, but for that same example, you have C.J. Stroud, who went to the Texans. The Texans were in a bad spot.
True.
Very bad spot. However, they make changes with the coach. They bring in a new coach, bring in a new scheme. All of a sudden, with the right guy in place, C.J. Stroud's now all of a sudden in a favorable position. Nobody was excited about him going to the Texans until they figured out that DeMeco Ryans was the right guy. He proved himself as a young coach, and all of a sudden, that franchise is going in the right direction. So there can be changes. You just don't want to go to an organization that I feel is consistently dysfunctional, i.e. the Jets.
Yeah, that's a good one. But I like the Saints organization as a whole, and it'll be kind of interesting to see what happens moving forward with them. Again, Dennis Allen, he's been a head football coach for 4 full seasons. 4 full seasons, 4-12, 4-12, 7-10, 9-8. He was 0-4 with the Raiders and got fired. They said that's good. You're heading toward another 4-12. So we'll see what happens.
He's on the clock.
See what happens with him. 803-404-6100. That's how you can weigh in. We'll get back into a little bit more of the South Carolina recruiting room as well. You're listening to Preston Thorne, Bill Gunner, she's Jen Jensen. It's the early game. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing. It's a beautiful day out there today, but you know as well as I do, we're going to have some of those summer thunderstorms coming in at some point. There's going to be hail. There's going to be heavy rain. Is your roof ready to handle it? Because Mid-State Roofing, again, for nearly 30 years, they've been the proven leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry. It's their proven history that is your assurance that their professionals will provide proper advice, service, and results to the needs of your facility in a manner both safe and pleasing to you. And guess what? They also offer a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week call center, 803-356-1919. Someone will be ready to answer your call and work with you to protect that roof with a maintenance contract. So call Mid-State Roofing today. 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. They are ready to help you. 803-356-1919 or visit them on the web, midstateroofing.com. If you've got a leak, let Mid-State Roofing take a peek. Bill Gunner for the Ecton Law Firm. All right, I know tax season for some of you may be over, but for some of you it may just be picking up. And if tax troubles are starting to weigh you down, it's time to call John Ecton and his team. They're ready to help you, and it all starts with a free consultation to work on whatever is the problem for you, whether it's a levy, whether it's a lien, whether it's another notice that the IRS has sent to you. John Ecton and his team, whether it's here in Columbia, whether it's in Florence, whether it's in Myrtle Beach, they want to help you get rid of the stress. So call today for a free consultation, 803-771-9800. John Ecton and his team understand the challenges that you're facing. That's why they're ready to offer you the peace of mind you deserve. So if you've got one of these nasty grams, these nasty letters from the IRS, don't let it stress you out. Call John Ecton and his team today, 803-771-9800. Tell them you heard it with Bill Gunner. 7:48. So we get you through. We'll get back into some South Carolina football in the next hour. The Gamecocks picking up 2 commitments out of the transfer portal, 2 wide receiver commitments out of the transfer portal. We'll get into that in the next hour and give you more details. Vandravius Jacobs, the wide receiver from Florida State, coming in. For a guy with 4 years of eligibility. And then you have Delvon Coleman, who comes in with 1 year of eligibility. We'll talk more about that coming up. Excuse me, Delvon Campbell, not Coleman. Delvon Campbell, who's coming in with a 1 year of eligibility. We'll talk more about that in the next hour. I do have to ask you, as sports fans, Preston, we watch a lot of sports. A lot of you out there do, right? A couple years ago, it was Walker Hayes to start the football season. Remember who Walker Hayes is? He was the author of the Fancy Like commercial. Well, he's the author of the Fancy Like song that Applebee's just smashed into the ground on opening weekend. Just absolutely drove people nuts. Like, I don't even mind. I like Applebee's. I'm perfectly fine with that. I grew up, there was an Applebee's right across from Lexington Middle School. We would go there a lot after school. I have an affinity for it. Right there in Lexington, Jen.
Still there?
Still there. Well, I only bring this up because during the break, I heard that today is Chet Holmgren's birthday. Chet Holmgren, 22 years of age today, turning 22 years of age, first year. Unfortunately, he right now is part of what is being deemed one of the worst sports commercials to ever air.
Lies.
Oh, no. Oh.
We have a disagreement here, sir.
AwfulAnnouncing.com put out an article yesterday, 2 days ago, said everyone is sick of the Chet Holmgren, SGA, Shai Gilgeous-Alexander, What a Pro Wants commercial. I'm in that camp.
Come on, man.
I cringe when it comes on every time with these two guys singing.
Is it just because you don't like these dudes?
I really had no problem with either of them. I actually, for a while, didn't even know who SGA was in the commercial. I didn't really know.
That's the issue with the commercial. It seems like it's 2 random dudes, and you're like, all right, what are these guys doing here? Who are these people? Because nobody actually pays attention to Oklahoma City.
Right.
Even though they're very good. Nobody's paying attention. Shea Gilchrist is very Canadian. If you ever hear him speak, he has a very pronounced Canadian accent. Then you have Chet looking like Chet. It's an odd, strange combination. But I don't dislike the commercial, though.
Let me just read. This is from Awful Announcing. It says, it's that time of the year, the one commercial that gets played ad nauseum to the point where everyone collectively hates it and wishes they never had to see it again. For the 2024 NBA playoffs, that ad has been the What a Pro Wants AT&T commercial featuring Oklahoma City stars Shai Gilgeous-Alexander and Chet Holmgren. And it goes on to say that it's as simple, but it creates a lot of questions. Chet and SGA are leaving a nondescript building, both clad head to toe in leather.
Yes.
Holmgren lets SGA know that AT&T has just texted him with information for the best plan for him, which makes us wonder what plan they duped him with initially. Holmgren adds they know what a pro wants. SGA replies by saying what a pro needs, and they eventually start poorly singing Christina Aguilera's What a Girl Wants before recognizing they got some work to do. That is some quick producing right there.
Mm-hmm. This commercial is for us. This is for the TRL generation. This is for anybody who's seen Christina Aguilera on The Voice or anything like that. I thought it was clever.
This is the most cringeworthy. Walker Hayes comes to mind. Walker Hayes, the fancy, and I actually enjoy Walker Hayes' music, but
it wasn't. See, the Walker Hayes, it wasn't the song. It was the commercial with the dude,
the dancing, the other people split. Dancing, all the people dancing.
That's the issue. That was the issue.
You heard the song a lot and it got tiring, but it was definitely the dancing.
It was the dancing, right? That's what it was. And this one is that we just don't know who these people are. So imagine people are random. There's a sport, because listen, we are sports fans.
Right.
You are sports fans listening right now. If we had to put Shai Gilgeous-Alexander in a lineup,
if he walked in with Mike Trout, we'd be able to narrow it down only because of one thing.
Correct. But if you put them in the streets, I don't know. Who are these guys? I don't know who they are. So that's the issue with it. Why do they keep having this commercial go over and over again? But I'm going to be in the camp of I dig it. I kind of like it.
Awful announcing goes on to say it's the kind of commercial that's harmless enough if it runs selectively or only during Oklahoma City games. But when the commercial becomes ever present in the lives of NBA fans trying to maintain their sanity during the stressful playoffs, it ceases having any positive value in anyone's life. Instead, it becomes a menace, unrelentingly stalking basketball fans without remorse.
I'm here for Chet. I'm here for Chet. I'm like the phenomenon of Chet. You got this dude, he's 7'10", playing ball, Canadian guy. I'm with it, man. It's a cute story. Bill, we normally like upstarts teams. The youngest team in the NBA winning the playoff series. This is what we usually are here for. And now they have a commercial.
Dan Wolken, I believe still with USA Today, said this is the one issue uniting all Americans at the moment. The commercial is an abomination, and I increasingly recoil every time I'm forced to watch it.
I disagree.
There you go. There you go. It's a little more. We'll get back into some football talk. Shedeur Sanders in Colorado and Deion Sanders. This is going well.
Yeah.
We'll get into a lot of that this morning with that. Get back into some football as well. NFL also wants to expand more football games. We'll talk about that coming up in the next hour. You're listening to the early game.
And it's been a little bit busy out on the highways. Let's get down the list, shall we? Platte Springs Road at South Lake Drive. Also, Old Cherokee at Old Chapin, still in the cleanup stages in Lexington. Leesburg Road near Fairmont Drive. Also, I-77 southbound at Two Notch Road. I-20 westbound at Clemson Road, there is a report of an object on the highway. Dutch Fork Road near Broad River Road. Also, at American Italian Way at Pineview Drive. You will also encounter a slowdown. Looking for a high today of 86 under sunny skies, 88 for Thursday and Friday. It's looking like we could see some rain and storms in the forecast for the weekend, and highs in the low 80s. 66 right now.
$8 a.m., final hour on your Wednesday morning commute. Hope you're doing all right as we have countdowns going on. Countdowns to my birthday and on Friday, countdowns to the co-pilot's birthday. Ronnie hit us up earlier. He's got a countdown to when he gets to see his son who's serving in the Navy. Jen's got a countdown until the Indy 500. Preston's got a countdown until we get these students just out of here that are just recklessly wandering the streets trying to get to class.
We appreciate your service. Now go home. We'll see you. We'll see you back in the fall.
So we have got countdowns, and that leads us to Preston Thorne's own personal countdown. What have we got again?
22 days until 100 days.
Nice.
Until the season starts. 22 days until 100 days.
So that's what we're tracking.
That's what we're tracking right now.
Our countdowns. And then the great thing about countdowns, once you pass this, you just move on to another one. So, like for my birthday's Friday. As soon as the birthday gets here, all right, I'll move on to a countdown for the Kentucky Derby.
Start a new one.
Start to get ready for the Derby. The Kentucky Derby this weekend should be a fun sports weekend. Speaking of sports, tonight, baseball over at Founders Park. 6:15 pregame, 6:30 first pitch. East Tennessee State is in town. We don't need to spend a whole lot of time talking about this. We will get more prepared for baseball at Missouri this coming weekend, Preston. But this is just another case where I know it's East Tennessee State, but you do kind of label it in terms of trying to host. You label it a must-win because at this point in the season, you can't drop these kind of midweek games.
Yeah, you don't want to drop it. And also, I think it's a must-win because you want to keep the momentum going from the weekend. You want to keep that rolling into this next series against Missouri, who's not very good. There's a chance for you to build up a cachet of victories based on what you did this past weekend. So if nothing else, win this game just to make last week's games count.
And we'll get more in, again, Missouri, 7 o'clock Friday night, 6:45 pregame out there, and we'll get you ready for that later on this week. But again, tonight over at Founders Park, if you want to get out and check out some baseball, 6:15 pregame right here, 107.5 The Game, 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach, and 6:30 first pitch. Last night, again, lots of playoffs. NHL was in full force. I watched the Hurricanes, who I think that's who I'm kind of pulling for here to see what they can do. They've been a pretty solid franchise. We were talking about the New Orleans Saints. They win last night 6-3 over the Islanders, so they advance. They win that series. The Maple Leafs take down the Bruins. That series is the Bruins 3-2. I saw you looking at Brad Marchand earlier.
I didn't get a chance to do a deep dive, but I had to just put a face with a name. So
you might need a little deep dive.
I'll do some more deep diving on him.
He's someone that's easy to dislike. And can give you someone very easy to pull against, I guess.
That's what I need. What you need in sports that you're not familiar with is you need storylines. You need to figure out who am I pulling for, who's the good guy, who's the bad guy, what's going on here. give me the plot, and then I can get involved. That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm trying to get involved with the Carolina Hurricanes. But I haven't got anything to grab onto.
Yeah, I mean, they're just they're
just good.
Just good.
That's not enough.
They're good. Yeah,
not enough. I need
2
a
goals
reason.
in 8 seconds last night.
Yeah.
So pull it was 3-3, and then they scored 2 goals in 8 seconds. It's worth checking out. It's pretty easy. Hockey's pretty easy to find the villain. I'll be honest. Sometimes you have to be a little creative, but usually the way these teams play, and especially in the playoffs, finding the villain.
Yeah, you just see the dude skating around with no intentions of scoring. He's just walking around. He's like, "Oh, I'm going to get you."
Exactly. Like the other night, I forget who I was watching. Somebody just checked somebody in the shoulder. Just skating by, and they just popped him in the shoulder, and he had to go off the ice again. Check that out. So you had NHL last night again. Maple Leafs 2-1 over the Bruins. Hurricanes 6-3 over the Islanders. Avalanche 6-3 over the Jets, and Predators 2-1 over the Canucks. Canucks lead that series 3-2, and Colorado knocking off Vancouver. They win that series 4-1. So that was your NHL last night. On the flip side of that, pretty fun night in the NBA, highlighted by the New York Knicks and the Philadelphia 76ers. Tyrese Maxey was incredible. But, Preston, you say the NBA is changing for the good, maybe.
Well, things are happening, man. Things are changing, and I don't know whether it's for the good or bad, because you mentioned that they have the streaming deal, the rights deal is coming up. And I said yesterday, a lot of the names that we're familiar with are not here. And it's fine, because these games are still excellent and they're still entertaining. We watched the Knicks and the 76ers last night, and I guess Embiid might be somebody of an old guard, maybe. But these younger guys are carrying the torch, playing tremendous basketball. And last night's game reminded me of old school excitement in the Garden. The organs playing, they're cheering, defense, tremendous. Watching those fans get so excited, only to be shot down by Tyrese Maxey shooting that 3 from the logo.
Right.
And you just see all, like you said, on social media, you see Ben Stiller. Tracy Morgan gave him the bird.
That seems about right for Tracy Morgan.
It was a tremendous environment. It's just a really cool thing watching NBA playoffs be exciting at a time when, the NBA regular season is not. But the playoffs are what basketball could be.
Last night was really good. Not only that, you had, although nobody watched it, nobody even is aware they're playing. Cleveland and Orlando was 104-103. You did have the one blowout in Milwaukee, 115-92 over Indiana in that one. But I will admit, after last night, you are right about New York and the Garden. It's fun to see when when the Knicks are relevant, and you get the Garden rocking, and you get all the stars in there, and they're showing up, all the East Coast stars as opposed to all the West Coast stars. Tired of seeing Jack Nicholson.
Yeah, because it's different. It's totally different. The LA stars, they're just sitting courtside, right? They're being cool. They have sunglasses on.
Yeah.
It's not the Forum. See, there you go.
Yeah.
I wanted to call it the Forum, which is 2 arenas removed, because it's not even the Staples Center anymore. Right. How old am I? These kids playing at the Forum. Anyway. That's why we want to.
The Garden, Boston Garden.
Yes, we're still at Madison Square Garden. It's still the same place. But the Madison Square Garden celebrities, they're into it. They're cheering. They're hanging on by the edge of the seat. You saw Jon Stewart looking disheveled because his team's losing. As I said, Tracy Morgan flipping people the bird. Spike Lee's always there. It's a fun time. And when that building is rocking, it is a great environment. And for the 76ers to go in there and basically shut them down, it was compelling entertainment last night.
So do you get more into the higher scoring games? Or is that what you need for it to be compelling?
See, that's the thing. And Ethan Strauss is an NBA writer, or he's a writer, I guess, and he's been sort of playing around with this idea of the perfect score of a game. And he says the perfect score of a basketball game is somewhere around 101 to 97.
Okay.
If you just hit that century mark, that means we had offense,
right?
But we didn't have too much offense, because if you score 120, it's kind of boring.
Yeah.
But we can't go back to 93, where the Miami Heat and the Knicks are playing 76 to 74.
Jeff Van Gundy's locked on.
Yeah, we don't want that.
Somebody's leg.
There's something in that median range of 95 to 105. That's the optimal range for basketball games. And last night in overtime, 106-112, it had enough basketball, enough scoring, but also defense. Joel Embiid slapping people on the head. Just a lot of things were happening. It was just a compelling game. And when I look at Tyrese Maxey, I don't know what it is about his face. He just looks like a pleasant young man. He just has a nice guy face. Like, he looks like he's smiling, full of energy. Seems like a guy I want to cheer for.
Okay. As opposed to a guy who plays tonight. Now, you got to stay up a little bit for this. Russell Westbrook, who...
A dude you don't want to cheer for.
Yeah, you don't. Mavs and the Celtics will hammer my Heat tonight. The Heat have no chance. Jimmy Butler's out. Let's just get this thing. Just get them out. Don't just end the misery. Mm-hmm. Just end the misery. This is not their year. The Celtics should roll in that one tonight. That'll be the first game. But the second one is really interesting. And you mentioned these guys. If he will just keep doing what he's doing. If he will just keep doing. And I feel very awkward about saying this. I'm kind of coming around on Kyrie Irving. I'm kind of. Kyrie Irving is one of the most intriguing players because he had to play in LeBron's shadow, and he was really the reason I think the one was a Game 5 or Game 6.
I mean, to me, still one of the most incredible game shots that he hit in that Game 6 for that game. Yeah.
Like Irving, but he's just an odd duck.
Yes, say the least.
I think he's still a flat earther.
Yes.
There's the video of him when he went back to Boston, when he was at New Jersey, went back, and he walked around the court with, I don't know, what do you call it, saging, or with the sage and the smoke and just walking around the court. The other day, you and I were sitting here, I looked up, he's promoting his, I guess it was Indian heritage because he had a feather.
Yes, he has legit Native American heritage, which is awesome. But then he was wearing a gold feather in his ear, and it's like, all right,
yeah,
cool.
A gold feather earring that I guarantee you cost more than we make in a month. I'm kind of, but you watch him. I've watched a little bit more of this series because, by the way, Luka. So we talk about Joker being the old man with no hops, and Luka's just a fat dude out there playing basketball, schooling everybody.
Luka is not in shape. He's the opposite of in shape, and he's out there balling. He plays it with angles. He plays with speed. He can do all these weird little tricks with shots, and it's really fascinating. And then you pair him with Kyrie, who's basically a Harlem Globetrotter with the dribbles and with the handle, and it's a very exciting pair. And to Kyrie's credit, he's kept his mouth shut this year. He hasn't said anything. He's stayed out of trouble, so congratulations to him. Yeah, they are an interesting team, and I didn't think that was going to work with those two, but it's working.
I didn't think Kyrie could work with anybody.
Correct.
But I give credit. And Mark Cuban is an owner. I, for some reason, like him as an owner. He gets involved, but he doesn't get too involved. But yeah, you look at that team and what they're doing. They're doing a really good job there. That's a late game tonight, 10 o'clock. So good luck if you got to try and stay up for that. But that's
yeah. There's really no good guys because I mean, am I supposed to cheer for James Harden? Can't cheer for him, right?
Russell Westbrook is making James Harden look like a saint, and that is incredible.
Can't cheer for Russ.
Russ actions in, what was it, Game 3, I think, the other night were just despicable. He's just acting like about takes off one of the Mavericks' heads, and then it's like sitting on the bench while they're calling it a flagrant foul. And he's like, I didn't do nothing. I got all ball. But that's the game. That's your two games tonight. NBA playoffs is starting to cook a little bit. NHL is really starting to pick up. And, of course, we mentioned South Carolina baseball tonight as well. 6:15 pregame right here, 107.5 The Game, 6:30 start time. Again, 107.5 The Game, 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. We'll continue rolling along here. If you didn't see this, and I'm interested to get Preston's take on this because I don't know if Shedeur Sanders was wrong. I think he was right. And at the same time, he's like, I don't know. We'll talk Colorado. If you haven't seen Deion Sanders in Colorado now, this thing's got the expiration date is nearing on the primetime experiment in Bolborough. We'll tell you a little bit about why when we come back. You're listening to the early game. Bill Gunner for the mortgage guru, Jacob Crowder with First Palmetto Bank. Jacob is the mortgage guru in this market. I know that to be a fact. I personally used him just a few years ago for my condo, and everything went very smoothly. I got a great interest rate. The paperwork was done in a timely fashion. Everything ran its course, and now I'm very happy. And he'll do the exact same for you. Jacob and First Palmetto Bank have some incredible options if you're looking to buy, if you're looking to build, or if you're looking to refinance. Find out more today by giving Jacob Crowder a call. 803-719-1005. Again, that's 803-719-1005. First Palmetto Bank is locally owned and operated right here in the Midlands. That means Jacob has local decision makers for quick and precise underwriting. So if you're thinking about building, buying, or refinancing, call the Mortgage Guru today, 803-719-1005. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you.
American Italian Way at Pineview Drive, an accident there. Also, Dutch Fork Road near Broad River Road. Highway 262 near Lower Richland Boulevard, right there at Lester Farm Road. There's an accident there. I-77 southbound at Two Notch Road. Also still working Leesburg Road near Fairmont Drive. Two more to let you know about. Mallet Hill Road near Polo Road. And Platte Springs Road at South Lake Drive. 86 under sunny skies. That's what we're looking for today once some of the fog and clouds burn off. 88 tomorrow and Friday before we see some storms rolling in for the weekend, both Saturday and Sunday. Highs in the low 80s, but currently a little overcast, 66 on the early game.
8:19 is how the time is rolling around on our countdowns. 36, 35 more minutes until the end of this show. 2 days till my birthday. 3 days to the Kentucky Derby. Do you have an idea on when students finish? Students are finished. Their graduation should be like this weekend, right?
Today is the last day of classes.
Okay.
Today is the last day of classes, so should you see a lot of people moving, things of that nature around.
Graduations and getting out. I know one of the promotions assistants that was helping us on location, Maggie. I think she is wrapping up class and she's moving back to Baltimore. So, yep, you're gonna have the students who are wrapping up their college careers, Preston Thorne, and heading into the real world, or trying to figure out what the real world really is.
Yeah, that's the other part.
And the real world can be cruel. If you're not a very good football player and you want to call out a coach, and the coach's son just happens to be the starting quarterback, and you get called out, and the coach's son is kind of correct, I don't know. If you haven't seen this is the story at Colorado where Shedeur Sanders put out a tweet. I don't know. Wait, give us the background on this.
Okay, The Athletic published a really interesting story talking about all of the folks who have left the Colorado Buffaloes program since Deion has been there, whether they left willingly, whether they were urged to leave, whether they were told point blank that they don't have a place for them. And it gave these players basically a voice because we have not heard from them. Until this point, they've been essentially just a number. And the story was really interesting because you got a chance to hear from the players and what their sides of the story was. It was not a hit piece. Majority of them did not have really bad things to say about Deion, except for the fact that they were just speaking about the process of, or lack thereof, of which they went to. Many of them did not feel as if they had a fair chance to compete. They felt as if there was an old guard, new guard type of deal with the Colorado guys. The guys that were there maybe didn't get fair treatment from the guys coming in, staff, players included. So it was just talking about what the changeover. And I'm being honest, this is not unique to Colorado. This happens throughout turnover in college football, or probably even in your organization when the new management comes in. There's just things are up in the air. So this is what the story was. Solid story. Now, this is where we got to make this into a Deion story, because it could have just been a regular story that ran, but then the Sanders family has to get involved, and this is where the Sanders family gets involved.
Yeah, Xavier Smith, a safety, transferred in 2023, spring of last year, transferred out in 2023. He is a part of this article that Preston is referring to. The article's on The Athletic. It's written by Max Olson. It says it detailed players who left, their experience. This is an interesting phrase, but Max Olson of The Athletic wrote this article, and it says the players who left, their experience being effectively fired from an FBS program and how they've done in their year since. Effectively fired is a wild way of putting what you may have seen in your time at South Carolina. What's always been said is coaches basically saying, hey, we appreciate you. You don't have a spot here really anymore. You need to go look around.
Right. You need to go look around. We're going to try and figure things out. Now, that was the story. That has happened. Obviously, Deion has done this on a major scale. And what was the interesting part of the story was the players were just talking about their side of the story, because all we've heard from Deion's side was the glamour and glitz, and I'm bringing my Louis luggage with me, and we're going to be changing things around here. Whenever a coach comes in talking about changing things, there are players who are on the other end of that change. That's fine. That happens. The part that got everybody's attention was when the quarterback.
Well, hold on. Let's start with this. So in the article, Xavier Smith.
Yes.
Xavier Smith kind of goes after Deion to an extent. Maybe not overly aggressive, but he is quoted recalling Deion Sanders telling Xavier Smith he should enter the spring transfer portal. This is last year. This is last spring, 2023. And I'll tell you what school he went to in just a minute, because that's also part of the story. But Xavier Smith says, I was actually getting mad, like tears coming to my eyes, because, bro, you never even tried to get to know me. he was destroying guys' confidence and belief in themselves. The way he did it could have been done with a little more compassion. That's Xavier Smith, who actually transferred to Colorado from Buffalo. Mind you, again, he didn't go to Colorado and then Deion showed up and was like, oh, like he had himself left Buffalo to go to Colorado, the Buffalo Bulls, and now is being told by Deion Sanders. And so he is quoted in this article, again, saying, I was actually getting mad, like tears coming to my eyes because, bro, you never even tried to get to know me. He was destroying guys' confidence and belief in themselves the way he did it. It could have been done with a little more compassion. Let's just start with this. Not the worst thing, right? That's not the worst.
No, that's just his opinion. He's like, hey, he could have been a little bit more compassionate when you told me to pack my stuff and leave.
And then that leads us to Shedeur Sanders.
Mm-hmm. Shedeur quote tweets this story from The Athletic, which, by the way, Shedeur then goes into a Twitter Spaces. You have to follow us here. He then goes into a Twitter Spaces and says, well, I didn't even read the article. So Shedeur just did like everybody else, read the quotes and was like, okay. And so Shedeur quote tweets it, and then, let me translate. I don't even remember him to BH. Bro had to be very mid at best. So let me act as a translator here. I-O-N, as in like I don't. So he's phonetically spelling this. I don't even remember him, TBH, which stands for to be honest in the kids' vernacular. If you don't know, TBH. Bro had to be, referring to Xavier Smith, had to be very mid meaning not very good, average, at best.
We'll get to it in just a second. We'll hit the punchline in just a second. Your thoughts on that just in there?
Shedeur is acting like the spoiled brat that he is.
Xavier Smith transferred to Austin Peay.
Mm-hmm.
So he didn't even stay in the FBS. He went FCS. He went down even further. Shedeur Sanders probably isn't wrong here. The bigger question is what we just saw with Spencer Rattler. As a matter of fact, even in this article on For the Win, it says, on one hand, this is a terrible look for a quarterback who is supposed to be the leader in the locker room. We just spent 2 days at the 2024 NFL Draft debating whether or not an old reality show clip of Spencer Rattler blaming his teammates in a high school practice was the reason he fell to the 5th round. Sanders, by comparison, went and tweeted it out without even having good sense to use a Mariah Carey gif.
That might have made it better. That might have made it a joke, actually. Yeah. We don't know if this was actually a joke. Yeah. But, again, it's very easy to do these things when, let me go talk to the coach. Oh, yeah, the coach, Daddy, they talking bad about me. Coach will protect him, I'm sure. Maybe you'll have some words with him in private, but this is not something that you would want your quarterback, who's supposed to be the face of the program, doing that.
You're not supposed to, but welcome to 2024 and social media. And Shedeur Sanders, who, by the way, should also be pointed out yesterday, and I'll just go back and pull this, was projected as the number 1 pick in the 2025 pick on a recent mock draft. He doesn't have him going to the Tennessee Titans, so I don't know how bad the Titans are supposed to be this year. Apparently pretty bad. But it's just something it's interesting, maybe more so for us, because of what we all just heard about Spencer Rattler and why his fall was because of the way he acted, 7 years ago?
And this is where the NFL will contradict themselves, where they'll be like, well, yeah, that was for Spencer Rattler because Spencer Rattler's 6 foot and slow. Shedeur Sanders has all the intangibles of a guy who's going to be a first-round quarterback. So he has a pro pedigree. He's a little eccentric. We'll let it slide.
Yeah, it's we'll talk a little more about that, get back into. I do want to get into this NFL decision, some things that Roger Goodell kicked around. 18-game season.
Let me tell you something. The commissioner doesn't just kick things around.
We'll tell you what he suggested if you didn't catch it last week. I'm all for it. He's got my attention, and I'm joining the force to make this happen, mainly because it's also Super Bowl related. We'll tell you about that. You're listening to Bill Gunner, Preston Thorne, Cheese Jen Jensen. It's the early game. Bill Gunner for Love Chevrolet, where not just the flowers are in bloom, the deals, the sales, they are in bloom as well. And you need to get over to I-26 in Harbison between Lowe's and Frankie's Fun Park and check out the 14 acres of brand new Chevys that you can choose from, whether it's a Suburban, a Tahoe, a Silverado, whatever it may be. Love Chevrolet has got you taken care of. And again, it all starts with finding the best selection of vehicles anywhere in the Midlands. 14 acres. You're guaranteed to find the make, model, interior, exterior, everything you've been looking for. And then you want the best deal possible. Guess what? At Love Chevrolet, they make sure you get that as well. Not only do they not sell above MSRP, but they also offer the $1,000 low price guarantee, which means you can actually shop other dealerships, take their deal back to the folks at Love Chevrolet, and they will top it or they'll write you a check for $1,000. Find out for yourself. Visit Love Chevrolet today, and together, let's drive.
Definitely, it is busy out on the highways this morning. We have an accident at Alpine Road at Windsor Lake Boulevard. Still working American Italian Way at Pineview Drive. Highway 262 near Lower Richland Boulevard there at Lester Farm Road. I-77 southbound at Two Notch Road, exit 17. Leesburg Leesburg near Fairmont Drive. Mallet Hill Road near Polo Road. Old Tama at Coon Road. Pilgrim Church Road at North Lake Drive in Lexington. Also Platte Springs Road at South Lake Drive. And one more to let you know about, Highway 378 near Atlas Road. It is clear today and is supposed to continue that way. 86 and sunny skies. 88 tomorrow, much of the same. And a few clouds rolling in on Friday, high of 88. Potential rain in the forecast for the weekend.
.35 as we roll along here on your Wednesday morning. Do want to let you know, coming up later on this morning at 11 a.m., Dawn Staley will join the phones with Tyler Head and the Gamecock Central guys here. So plan accordingly. 11 a.m. this morning, national champion, two-time national champion, head basketball coach Dawn's three. That's right. Why did I decide to skip the very first one? Three-time national champion. Goes for number 4 next year.
Three-time national champion, dog walker, 76ers fan, Eagles fan.
They do need to get fully involved in a Sixers conversation with her this morning on Tyrese Maxey. But, yeah, make sure you tune into that. Dawn Staley on the phone with Gamecock Central and with Tyler Head this morning, 11 a.m. That'll be right here on 107.5 The Game, 100.5 The Game in Florence, 100.3 The Game in Myrtle Beach. And as always, a reminder, you can also stream us live. Go to the Game TV Radio, sponsored by Shepherd's Glass. You can go to YouTube and check out the Game TV Radio there. And this morning, 11 a.m., you can catch your three-time national champion head basketball coach Dawn Staley joining us. 803-404-6100 real quick to go back. These were just from a little while ago. The SGA Chet Holmgren commercial. Allen weighing in the AT&T commercial said, I agree with Bill. It's awful. Richard said, I agree. That is one of the dumbest commercials and very bland. Like, what's the point and not entertaining? Lori weighed in and said, I was in the car and couldn't text, but I'm tired of the AT&T commercial. Not the guys in it, it's the singing, which, yes, I agree. I agree wholeheartedly that it's the singing. And then there was Brad who weighed in. There are tons of us who know who those guys are. If you follow the sport, you should know. Also, that commercial was good.
My guy.
All right.
I agree on half of that. I'm not sure you should know who Shea Gilchrist is. I'm not sure you should know that, but good commercial, though.
803-404-6100. We were talking about Colorado and Shedeur Sanders and also the transfer of Xavier Smith. So let me ask this, because we get this is Zach in St. Simons. He says these players were recruited with a 4-year scholarship guaranteed to them. Not playing to a certain level is not equivalent to underperforming at work or fair to a kid that was promised a 4-year scholarship. Things have changed a lot for you, Preston, in your time away from football. But from what you know, are kids promised 4-year scholarships? Like how that wording goes now. Because if a player's going to be promised a 4-year scholarship, you know what? He needs to promise the coach he's going to be there for 4 years.
There has been a change in the language. Back in my day when I played, scholarships were were literally a year-to-year deal. You would come in, get your scholarship renewed every single year. It was with the.
Did you understand that?
It was with, yes, that was known, but it was with the caveat or sort of the wink that if you did everything correctly in the classroom and didn't get in trouble off the field, you would essentially have a scholarship. Now, that being said, if you were a borderline classroom guy, maybe, and then maybe your talent was borderline, they might urge you to change, to do things. They might try and persuade you to look in other directions or maybe find a better fit for, quote unquote, fit for you. The language now is that it is a 4-year scholarship when you sign your letter of intent. However, it's with the wink that we still want you here. And because we don't have any real regulations on this, because it's not regulated by employment law which is why he said essentially fired, because you can't fire somebody who's not an employee. Because it's not regulated by law, it leaves all of this gray area that most of these teams still operate in.
It's just such a big business that, I mean, it is. And by business, I mean, you look at what athletic departments are bringing in. You look at what the revenue schools are bringing in. You look at what coaches are making, which is probably beyond ridiculous. It is a business. It's become a business.
It's too big of a business not to have regulations, not to have a standard operating procedure of how everybody in all of the buildings understands how and why we are operating this way. Now, obviously, you can have that and still have people wiggle around. We know that happens in other industries. But as it currently stands, there is no standard operating procedure of how one program operates as opposed to another program. And that's where it gets tricky.
Well, and I guess in the NIL era, is that fair now that players are held almost for what they're able to go out and do, even if it's not a lot of money? I get that we get caught up on we mentioned Jaden Rashada and $13 million earlier in the program. We've heard about these incredible numbers that get thrown around with certain players. Fully understand that that's what the top three of all of sports. That's what 3%,
Very
2%.
small percentage. Very small percentage.
So,
and to that number, those guys are not really the ones who are going to be affected by this roster churn. Most of the folks who are going to be affected by roster churns and the ones that are having some of these difficult conversations in the spring, their NIL numbers are not in those areas.
But so is that fair? Is that fair that is the process of a scholarship? Because you say it, all right, if you do what I would almost say is the bare minimum. You keep your grades up, you show up to practice, but maybe you're not good enough. Your talent didn't develop or something's going. Is that fair?
Well, like they told me, the fair comes in October, man. I don't know. fair might not never
Enjoy
be.
that fair.
Yeah, fair's
Countdown to the fair.
Fair's never part of the equation. Is it just? I think is a better question. And the way the proposition is sold is that they are recruiting student athletes, student first, person first. And if you're holding up that end of the deal, that's the way the proposition. Now, I'm totally fine with if we negotiate a way where athletic performance and there are performance measures that are held in, and that is part of continuing keeping your scholarship. I'm totally on board with that. That's not the way it's sold right now.
Again, it's you and I were talking off air earlier. We were just kind of laughing about recruiting and the things going on, and the transfer portal. South Carolina picking up 2 guys yesterday. South Carolina picks up 2 guys yesterday in this.
Yeah, and to that point, I always want to make sure that we are being above board on everybody as far as all the perspectives are being represented. So I know we talk a lot about guys entering the transfer portal, and I'll say it again. I'm 100% in favor of players having agency to be able to move. I don't think a lot of them are making good decisions when they move, but I'm in favor of their rights to move. That being said, everybody is not just willy-nilly jumping into the transfer portal by themselves.
Let's let you explain that. We'll wrap up the program with that.
Because I think that is a perspective that we need to make sure we keep in when we hear some of these stories.
Yeah, we'll let Preston explain that. Guys who aren't necessarily jumping in, maybe on their own accord.
You can jump into the pool, or maybe you can get pushed into the pool.
Yeah, it's like being in middle school all over again.
1, 2.
I'm out there trying to be cool, and a bully like Jen is just walking behind me, shoving the smaller kids into the pool, just holding their head under the water.
That's not me at all.
Bully 803-40.
I don't hurt people or make them uncomfortable like that. I'll do other things that might be more psychological.
Yeah, like throw a Snickers or what was it, a Baby Ruth into the pool, and then blame it on somebody else. So that seems fair too. 803-404-6100 is the early game. Bill Gunner for Mid-State Roofing. For nearly 30 years, Larry Leitner, his team, his family, they have been the proven leader in the roofing and waterproofing industry, and they are ready to help you. It is their history. It is Mid-State Roofing's proving history that is your assurance that their professionals will provide the proper advice, service, and results to the needs of your facility in a manner that's both safe and pleasing to you and your operation. And you know what? They do that 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It doesn't matter if you happen to be sitting around at 3 a.m. and you notice a leak. Mid-State Roofing is ready to take a peek, and they're ready to help you. Call Mid-State Roofing today. Again, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. An on-call technician or a Mid-State Roofing employee is ready to help you. 803-356-1919. Again, that's 803-356-1919. You can visit them on the web. midstateroofing.com is how you can get in touch with them. Again, give them a phone call today. Tell them Bill Gunner sent you. We'll continue the countdowns tomorrow. Also, a reminder tomorrow, 7 a.m. to 8 a.m., Tony Annan back with us. By the way, his transfer portal opens. The soccer portal opens today. Soccer portal opens today, and he'll be with us tomorrow morning from 7 to 8 a.m.
I'll have to ask some questions about that because is that just intercollegiate? Is that international? Because there's so many different things that are happening with soccer recruiting.
What they do to college soccer makes no sense. The rules compared to basically every other sport. Why they're opening a portal? We'll get with him, but yeah, he'll be in tomorrow, 7 to 8 a.m. Reminder coming up in about 2 hours, 2 hours 9 minutes, according to what I've got here in front of me. Dawn Staley will join Tyler Head and Gamecock Central guys 11 a.m. She'll be on the phone. She'll call in. Might have to flip over and catch some of that and hear her Philadelphia 76ers take. See if she can urge them on to a victory and a comeback series against the Knicks. Again, as Tyrese Maxey last night goes for 46 in the Sixers overtime victory. But we're talking a little bit about the transfer portal. We'll wrap it up because you were mentioning, and this is kind of going back to Xavier Smith, safety, who again transferred in 2023. He was at Austin Peay this past year. So this didn't just occur for him. And maybe another reason why Shedeur Sanders didn't remember him. It was over a year ago, and Sanders got sacked, 50-some-odd times. He might have gotten a concussion and just I don't remember that dude.
Yeah.
But not all entries into the portal are equal.
Yeah, and that's the most important thing to keep in mind. Everybody has an individual reason why. Some of them may be because they just got more money from another place. Some reason might be because they want to stay close to their families. Some players are given pretty strong directives that if they don't leave, this is not going to be a good space for them. And sometimes that comes in the form of treatment of how we're going to treat you if you're around here, inclusion in the team and the culture and things of that nature. Players are kind of giving some clear signs that this is not the place for you, or just straight up, as I've heard a couple of reports from people that are on the ground, they just tell them, look, we need to win now. You're a couple of years away. You need to find somewhere else to go play. And I'm sorry, I'm very specifically aware of, the player was told that, and 2 hours later, access to the building was denied. Access to film was denied. So these things are happening, and this specific player was not planning on enter the portal before they came into that meeting. I say all that to say everybody understands that it is still a very intense industry.
Cutthroat business.
It's a very intense industry, and it's a cutthroat business.
I mean, I don't want to say I get it because I don't. I never participated in it. But I do also understand coaches wanting to protect their jobs, protect their income. Look, it's a lot of money some people make. No offense to him because I got to be somewhat friends with him. But it really was an eye-opener when South Carolina was like, Darren Horn, please stop coaching. Here's about $5 million because you aren't good at your job. And I was like, boy, I'd love to be bad at my job, but to get $5 million. I get the
Yeah, you're just bad at
I was
going
to say there. I knew it was coming.
Little.
I knew it was coming.
That's called
excellent job.
You set it up.
Yeah. But I don't. The great folks, the incredible folks at Cumulus and here, they're not. I'm not so bad. They're like, hey, here's $5 million. Please stop. Don't come to our studios anymore. It's like Ed Orgeron. Ed Orgeron, $17 million. What door? What door do I leave? Do you
sign me up?
So these coaches, I get it. You're not trying to. You're doing whatever it takes to keep the gravy train with biscuit wheels rolling.
Yeah, for sure. And if that means winning and that means cutting losses early, it's no different than what you'll see in a lot of corporate spaces in corporate America. As the game becomes more corporatized and becomes more of a business model, which it is. My only argument is let's start playing the same game and make sure we're all on the same rules.
We're about out of time, but Frank Martin was always pretty upfront about that, saying I recruit for the next year. I recruit my roster for the next year. And unfortunately, with all the turnover you'd see on his roster, you understood what he meant for that. He was only recruiting now. We can discuss Lamont Paris. The way he's got it set up looks good, though. Really like that. You'll hear from Dawn Staley. The way she's got it set up looks really, really good. She'll be on with Tyler, Chris, and Wes 11 a.m. this morning. Make sure you tune in for that. We've had a blast.
Good day.
Tune in tomorrow. We'll have more countdowns.
More.
More countdowns. Keep you updated. Y'all have a great day.